Right, so I've had my car, the Enyaq 85 edition, for the last year, and it's been great. You know that from my videos, I've loved it. Before that, I had an Enyaq 60. But do you know what? I'm sorry, Skoda, I'm bored. I've decided to go for something different. Something maybe a little bit grayer, a little bit more upmarket. No, don't worry, Skoda, it's not mine. I've not deserted you. It's a lovely car, but it's not mine. It belongs to a friend of a friend. We're all staying in the same hotel in Manchester, and it seemed like too good an opportunity to miss. So what this video is about is, it is 12 months since I got my Enyaq, and so this video is about 12 months review, my honest thoughts about the car. It's not what I'm paid to say. Skoda don't pay me, nobody else pays me. So it's my honest thoughts on what I've made of my car and what it's been like to live with. So I've had this car for a year, and it's a brilliant time, I thought, to list the top 5 things I like about the car and maybe the top 5 things I don't like. I say 5, I might go just above and beyond that when I start driving and I think of more things as I go. Obviously, if you've seen my channel, you'll know that I tested this car on a trip to Stafford down the M74 and the M6. Today I'm going down to Manchester, so it's not quite as far, but I thought it was a good opportunity to just do a quick range test again and also do that review that I've mentioned. So first things first, a lot of people talk about planning, journey planning with the Enyaq. So what I've done, before I left the office, I used the My Skoda app, and I also used a better route planner on the computer and did a couple of route plans. So today I'm travelling down. I'm going to be staying at a Holiday Inn near the Trafford Centre, and so I'm going to plug in the postcode into the sat-nav and we'll see exactly what it comes up with. Okay, so there's the postcode entered. Yes, it's in Manchester. So it's saying it's 217 miles, 3 hours and 40 minutes. I'll start. There we go. Let's have a look at what it's come up with. So no charges required, 217 miles, 3 hours 40 minutes. It says I am going to arrive there with 15% in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Okay, so what did a better route planner and My Skoda app come up with? So looking at my notes here, a better route planner said 3 hours and 26 minutes, and I would arrive with 16%. So that's pretty consistent with what the car sat-nav's saying, so that's good. And My Skoda app said 3 hours and 42 minutes, and that's not too far out from this, but it said it was 236 miles, so slightly longer. But then it also said I would need 16 minutes of charging at a GridServe charger on the M6. Now, GridServe are really expensive. There's no real filtering of charge providers available on the sat-nav. That's one of my criticisms of it. So what I did was I could set prefer Ionity or prefer Skoda PowerPass. I don't have a subscription at the moment. So what I've done is I've put that in, and it then added not 16 minutes, but it said I should stop at Gretna Green for 25 minutes. I've no idea why, because the Ionity chargers are just as powerful as the GridServe ones. Maybe it's because the car will not be as empty by the time it gets to Gretna. That's fair enough. But the other problem with Gretna is there are only 4 Ionity chargers there, and they're quite often very busy. Much better to carry on a few miles, go into Carlisle, stop at the Starbucks there. They've got 12 Ionity chargers, and that's all fine. Equally, I could just drive to Lancaster. I know I can reach Lancaster, and then again, 12 chargers there. There's a McDonald's, so I can go to the bathroom. I've no idea why the route planning has done what it is, but yeah, I am going to head off. I don't particularly need a route planner on this route. I know exactly where I'm going, albeit I will need the sat-nav when I get to the Manchester end to navigate exactly to where the hotel is. Although I've been there before, I don't know the routes in and around Manchester, so I will need the sat-nav's help. But interesting to see, they're all much of a muchness. Although the biggest flaw with the Skoda navigation system is you cannot select chargers. I'm not quite sure why the My Skoda app reckons I need a charge, because the car thinks I won't. and a better route planner agrees. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to head off now, and I will film on the route as I go and give you my thoughts on this car. So, actually, I said the top 5. I may stray a little beyond it, and I may have more thoughts occur to me as I go. I jotted some ideas down last night, and I'm particularly feeling in a good place to judge this car because I've just spent 2 weeks driving another vehicle, a diesel Volkswagen Transporter, around Germany, so I know what I've missed. And there'll be another video about that shortly, actually. So, positive features about this car. Well, there are many, and as you will know if you've seen my channel before, I used to have a 2021 Enyaq 60, so some of these things will be common to that, but quite a few of them will be additional new items which are on the more modern cars. So for me, the first thing that really I like about this car, but it's also a weak point, is the auto lock and unlock. So when I walk up to the car, as long as I've got the key in my pocket, the car will automatically unlock. And then when I walk away from the car, again, it will automatically lock. I say will because it isn't flawless. It has let me down on a couple of occasions. And I know this is a positive, but I'm going to jump into a bit of a negative to go along with this one right now. So that failure to auto lock, it was about 5:30 in the morning, 5:20 in the morning, at the railway station in Edinburgh. I was boarding a train to London, and at that time in the morning, frankly, I wasn't paying that much attention to whether the car had locked. I just assumed it had. And off I walked, jumped on board my train, and then about an hour or so later, when I was round about Newcastle, I noticed a widget on the screen of my phone saying the car was unlocked. Panic. Because the car was going to be sitting there until about 8 o'clock that evening, so that was another 13 hours, 14 hours maybe, from the time I was looking at it. All that time sitting in the city centre of Edinburgh, unlocked. Potentially stuff could be stolen from the car itself could be stolen. So I had a very nervous, tense day, constantly checking the app to see whether the car had moved, whether doors had been opened, that sort of thing. So it was very, very nerve-wracking. Now, with the latest software, the latest Enyaqs 2025 models, you can remotely lock and unlock the car from the app. Fantastic. And people say, why would you need that feature? Well, right there is a scenario where you would need that feature. I had 13 hours away from the car, and the car was unlocked and open to all who, if anyone had wanted to steal anything from it. So that new feature will fix that, but unfortunately it's not coming to the UK just yet. More of that in a second as well. Second positive feature, related to the auto lock and unlock, let's mention this as well. The ability to open the boot either remotely using the key fob or by kicking your foot underneath the back bumper, basically. A lot of people criticize this online, saying it just doesn't work, but I think it's different maybe from what other cars do. I've seen a lot of people waving their foot from left to right. That's not how it works on the Enyaq or the Elrock. What you need to do is you need to stand looking at the O of Skoda on the badge on the back, put your foot forward and then take it away and step back. If you stay too close to the car is smart enough to realise it'll hit you if it opens, so it won't open. If you wave your foot from left to right, that's not what it's expecting. So stand centred on the car, looking at the O, put your foot forward, take it back, step back, and in my experience the boot opens every single time. So those for me are brilliant features, and many of the time I've come out to the car and I have had bags or boxes, things in my hand, and I've not been able to open the boot with my hands. No problem, use my foot. Works every time. Also, if you're not the tallest person in the world, my wife is not tall enough to reach the button when the boot is unlocked. Neither is my son, so what they can do is they can wave their foot underneath, and that works brilliantly for them. So those are all really, really good positive features. So that's the first one out of the way. Second one, well, I'm using it today, the navigation system. Now, I'm probably going to switch during this trip to a better route planner, just because it gives me more flexibility, and I've certainly planned the route using a better route planner as well as my Skoda and the nav system. But this is really worth mentioning because, and Is the car going to slow? Yes, the car is slowing, but I'm going to use my brakes. And this sat-nav system really is worth mentioning, because if you look back at some of my earlier videos on the 2021 car, when the software was on version 2.4, that sat-nav was an absolute car crash. It didn't navigate to chargers particularly well. Now on today's trip I'm not going to need a charge. However, if I did on the old system, it used to navigate you to the very closest charger. Now that might mean ignoring, say, an Ionity charger, a super fast charger at 150 kilowatts, because it had spotted a 7 kilowatt charger closer to the car. Anyone who knows anything about electric cars knows that you are not going to want to go and sit and plug into a 7 kilowatt charger, because you will be there for hours on end. But that's what the sat-nav system as launched with the cars back in 2021 did. It was hopeless and I never used it. I then got into the habit of using a better route planner, and that's kind of my preference now, but that's a personal thing. This system is perfectly usable. It's way better than it used to be, and with the 2024 onwards cars like this one, it's got an absolute killer feature. If you need to charge, the car will not only find you a charger, but it will then precondition the battery. It will preheat the battery so that it gives you the very fastest possible charge. Now that's something which I know those who have got the older cars desperately want to have. We spoke about it with Skoda in the Czech Republic last year. When would this feature be coming to the older cars, the pre-24 cars? And they said they were working on it. They're still working on it, or at least we think they're still working on it. We don't know. I know that they were facing all sorts of technical difficulties in getting that to work, but since then they have been remarkably tight-lipped, and it's something we will, or I will certainly be asking them about when I go to the Czech Republic in September. So if that's something that's of interest to you, if you've got an older car, then yeah, stay tuned and I'll give you an update on whatever is said in September when we are in Mlada Boleslav. There's a whole bunch of us going. So that's the sat-nav. There's also a downside to the sat-nav. I'll cover it here as well while I'm talking about the sat-nav, and that is selecting chargers. Because on a better route planner, I'll use that as my benchmark because it's my preferred option, I can set favoured networks. So if I've got a PowerPass subscription, then Ionity chargers will be very cheap for me. If I have got a Tesla subscription, they will be even cheaper. Even if I don't have any subscriptions, Tesla chargers will typically be cheaper for me. And on the sat-nav, there is no way for me to say I would prefer to use a certain charger network, or as a better route planner does, avoid a certain network. I might want to completely avoid any of those networks. So that flexibility is not there. You can't do it in the My Skoda app either, and that, at least at one point, was claiming that it was based on a better route planner. That functionality just isn't there, and it really is needed. There have been many videos complaining about that. So back to the positives. The efficiency in this car. This car is really way more efficient than it has any right to be. It's a 2.5 ton family-sized SUV, i.e. it's a big lump of metal with a lot of weight. So it's got no real reason to be very economical, and yet it is. My long-term efficiency on this car is 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, so that covers one summer, particularly miserable summer last year, one winter, and then the first half of this year. And that's not bad going at all, and that's been using a lot of motorway trips as well. This morning, since charging, I've done 22 miles driving into Edinburgh, and now heading off down towards England, I've averaged 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. That is just ridiculous efficiency for a car of this size. On social media, I'm in a number of Volkswagen ID3 groups on things like Facebook, and these cars, these Enyaqs, appear to be more efficient than the ID3, which is based on the same platform, is smaller, is lighter, you would think is more aerodynamic, and that does not make any sense to me. This car doesn't have a heat pump, and so in the winter time it hasn't had the benefit of that. and I just find these astonishing efficiency levels. So very, very happy with that. And efficiency translates into lower cost and more range. So in terms of range, I got a lot of comments from people sometimes saying, oh, you can go 600 miles in a diesel. Watch my forthcoming video about Germany for a comparison of electric versus diesel. But this car will easily do 320 miles. Today it's 17 degrees. It's typical kind of Scottish summer's day. It's overcast and it's 17.5 degrees here, and it's now doing 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour since charging. So that's pretty good. If you get a nice hot day, then obviously it will do even better. And is that enough range? Yeah. I mean, I am not going to be able to drive to Manchester today without stopping, and if I stop for my human needs, then I will be able to plug the car in. I'm hoping that I will be able to reach Lancaster today. I know the car will get there, but I'm hoping I will be able to reach Lancaster today. There's an Ionity charger there. I can plug in, nip inside to McDonald's where they have got a bathroom. I can go there and then come back out. I know from my last trip that took about 7-8 minutes from memory, and in 8 minutes I'll add 20% back onto the car, which will give me enough charge to get back the following day. Okay, so that's efficiency. Now, one other feature which helps with efficiency happens to be one of my favorites, or rather it's part of a suite of things. I'm going to lump these together under the kind of autonomous driving systems, and what the car has got is a whole number of systems. And in discussions recently with Skoda, they said you must not call it autopilot. It's not autopilot. I'd use that as a shorthand. Skoda has a number of assist systems. The one that helps with the efficiency is called Eco Assist, but then this car has Travel Assist, there is Traffic Jam Assist, there is, oh, I can't remember what they all are, but there's a whole suite of them together, and they're known together, I think, as Travel Assist, but I call it an autopilot system. But even if you're not working on adaptive cruise control or full Travel Assist, the car, just in manual driving, has a thing called Eco Assist. And what that does is, when you're on, particularly on country roads like this one I'm on just now, A roads, or you're in town, the car knows when there are bends coming up, it knows when there are changes of speed limit, it knows when there are roundabouts and junctions. And what it will do is, it calculates the optimum time for you to take your foot off the throttle. It knows how far it is to that next change, speed limit or obstacle, whatever it is, and it calculates what's the best time for you in terms of efficiency to take your foot off the throttle, because then it will just coast up to whatever that thing is. So a symbol comes up on the dashboard. Lots of people don't really know what it is, lots of people overlook it, but it's a sign of a foot lifting off a pedal. And guess what that's for? It's telling you to lift your foot off the pedal. If you pay attention to that and you do what that is suggesting, in my experience, even when you think, no, it's too optimistic, I'll keep some power on, it always gets it right. If I don't take my foot off the pedal, then what happens is I end up having to use the paddles to add some more regen back on, because I have used more power than I needed to. So trust the Eco Assist system and you will get the best possible efficiency. So obviously there I focused on Eco Assist, but for me the whole system of Travel Assist Plus, as it's known in Skoda terms, is really, really good. I call it autopilot for short because Travel Assist Plus is more of a mouthful. But when I compare it with the autopilot system I used to have on my Model 3, this is so much better. So I don't use it on roads like this. This is the A702, so it's a single carriageway trunk road. The system will cope with this, but I prefer to drive these roads manually and keep the auto assist, the auto steer system for motorways or dual carriageways. But the car will actually drive a road like this if you wanted it to. It's just recommended in the manual that it really is designed purely for motorways and dual carriageways, so that's what I reserve it for. So at this point you'll have noticed, if you've been watching carefully, that I've gone from 2 cameras to 1 because one of the GoPro cameras packed up, and just as I was about to finish the positives, the second one died as well. I was unaware, so I kept on talking and listing out the positives and negatives. So clearly GoPro cameras aren't perfect. What about the Enyaq? Well, it's no different. It's not as bad as GoPros, it doesn't pack up unexpectedly, but there are some negatives. So before I get onto those, the one positive I didn't get a chance to mention was the headlights. Now, the standard Enyaq, when I got it, had LED headlights, and these were excellent. They were on a par with xenon headlights I'd had in the past. But when I got the Edition in 2024, wow, LED matrix headlights, they are simply on a different level. You basically set to full beam and the car does the rest. It blocks out when there's oncoming vehicles coming your way so you don't dazzle anyone. They really are very, very good. I've got no footage, it's summertime, so I can't really illustrate it for you, but take my word for it, they are fantastic. So, negatives. There's one that gets really, really irritating very quickly. So my car has got the powered driver's seat, and that means it's got, I think, 3 memories, and they tie to your keys so that, you know, if you and another driver have got different seating and mirror positions, it should remember them. Fantastic. And it does remember those positions. However, my issue is with the comfort, or the easy entry, I think it's called, the easy entry function. And what this is supposed to do is that when you switch the car off, the seat moves back, making it easier for you to get out from behind the steering wheel and get out of the vehicle. And likewise, getting in, it makes room for you and you can get in. So mine does do that. It moves back and out of the way. I can exit the vehicle, no problem. The problem comes when you come to get back in the vehicle. I would say maybe 80% of the time, my seat just does not move back to the correct position. It's a first world problem. I have to reach down and I press button number 1, which is the one I've got set for my favourite seating position, but it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. So that just is quite irritating. A second negative, I mentioned it already in the sat-nav commentary, but you can't really set all the parameters like you can in a dedicated planner like a Better Route Planner. So you can't set arrival battery percentages. I can't say I'd like to arrive on, I don't know, 10%, 5% if I'm coming home. It can't do that, and you can't filter by different chargers. So I couldn't say just pick Tesla chargers for an example. You just can't do that. What it does let you do is filter for Ionity chargers, Skoda PowerPass, but really I don't have a PowerPass subscription at the moment, and so it's of minimal use. It's just not as flexible as a Better Route Planner. And then probably the biggest failing of this car, software updates. So my car's fine. It works absolutely fine. My old car was absolutely fine. It worked with no real issues whatsoever. However, Skoda have been promising over the years software updates, bug fixes, maybe even some new product features, and that whole position is really confusing at the moment. So they recently announced that for cars like mine, 2024 cars, with software version 4, that those will be upgraded to version 5. That will also include new features such as remote locking and unlocking, so it will deal with one of my complaints about the car. However, that has now been paused. That's not going to happen in the UK anytime soon, so it's not exactly clear what's going on. It's being rolled out, and you'll have seen in the rest of Europe, Matthias Speicher has got a video out detailing all the features that come with the new version. Lots of small quality of life improvements, as he calls them. Fantastic. But for those in the UK, Ireland and Cyprus, it's not happening anytime soon. So it's really quite confusing. And also, another matter of confusion, I asked the head of customer experience when I was in the Czech Republic last year, what is the story with version 3, version 4, version 5, and he explained that the first number, 3, 4, 5, changes with hardware changes. So when a new model year is launched, then it will get a new number. So in my case, my car was 2024, they got version 4. I asked him specifically, would my car ever get remote unlock and unlock? Would it get version 5? And he said, it might get the unlocking, but it will not get version 5 because 5 matches to the hardware. And yet here we are, they've just announced software version 5 will be upgraded onto the version 4 cars. So I did make the point to them last year that they were causing a lot of frustration and anger among customers by adopting the numbering policy which they have. People just want to have the latest version. They don't really understand all the details that
a version 3 software matches a certain combination of hardware, and then that the next year's car would have different hardware and therefore a different software version. They think of it just like their phone. They want the latest version of iOS or Android, and they don't necessarily understand all the differences between the hardware variants and different components in different batches of cars. And I suggested to Skoda that perhaps they really ought to simplify things and just make sure that people had the very latest number, and that might mean that all cars have version 5, but there would be different flavors of 5 for different hardware combinations. Maybe that's what they're doing, I don't know. It's certainly confusing, and I know there's a lot of frustration amongst those with older versions of the cars, so it's a bit of a mess right now. And then 2 final things. Why no frunk? There's space under the bonnet of these cars to have a storage capacity. I've got my cable stored under there, I've got a granny charger stored under there, but I had to buy an aftermarket accessory, and there's a video on my channel showing that, and it fits, and my cables live there quite happily. So why can't that just be done from the factory? That would be a simply clever Skoda feature. And finally, this one is a real problem, but it's common across all Volkswagen Group cars, and that is the charge flap. The locking mechanism for the charge flap is a well-known component which fails with water ingress over time. There's a solenoid in there, water gets in, it all rusts up, and then before you know it, you have got a locked charge flap. You cannot refill your car. The recommended way to deal with this is to call out Skoda Assist, who will break it for you. They will break it open, and then you are covered by warranty. If your car's outside of warranty, then it's quite an expensive fix. This is a well-known component. It's common and has been for years across all Volkswagen Group cars. It's not been an issue with diesel and petrol cars because they don't leave their refilling flap open in the rain. On an EV like the Enyaq or the Elrock, then you're leaving your charging flap open while the car sits charging for many hours on end, potentially in the rain. Water gets in, and that causes the problem. Now, I do some preventative maintenance. I get some silicone lubricant and I spray that in, and I've got just a routine. There's an entry in my calendar every month, and once a month I will go out and lubricate that charging flap mechanism, and fingers crossed so far it's not been an issue. But really, this is something that Volkswagen generally need to address because it is common to all their EVs, whether they're ID, Audi or Cupra or even Skoda. So that's it for the negatives, and now back to the rest of the video that I filmed on the day.
So I've just discovered a new feature on the Enyaq. So after 1 hour and 35 minutes, a coffee cup came up on screen saying tiredness, driver tiredness. It's been 1 hour, 1 hour 35 since your last break. We suggest you have a rest. So I didn't take that suggestion, so I've carried on, and I've just passed T-Bay services in Cumbria on the M6, and a red coffee cup came up and the car beeped very loudly at me, and it said, "We have detected tiredness," or "Tiredness detected, take a break, driver fatigue." I've not done that either because I don't need to take a break yet. I'm not actually feeling that tired, and I don't need a charge, and I don't need the toilet, so I'm going to carry on regardless. So what's new is not detecting tiredness. That's pretty standard. I had that on my Volkswagen camper van last week. I think most cars have that, and that's all good. But what it's done is it's the second level. So the first one, it just popped up and there was a nice white message saying tiredness detected, take a break, and it's now let me go for another hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes, something like that, and it's now beeping and saying a red alert, basically saying that it's time to take a break. So I'm fine. I'm not going to do any stupid risks, obviously. If I do start to feel tired, I will take a break, but at the moment it's all good. So by pressing the little I sign there, I can see that I've got another 26 minutes to go until I reach the Ionity chargers. So that's actually probably not a bad time to bring up the battery optimization. So at the moment you see it's 66 kilowatts, and I could charge, or rather I could heat the battery up for another 13 minutes, and that will then allow me to charge at 80 kilowatts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start that. Obviously, if I was using the Skoda sat-nav system, that would all have to happen automatically, but I've started it manually, and we will see what I get when I reach Lancaster Ionity. Say another 26 minutes, I am probably going to need to take a break, because by that stage I will have been driving for 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is probably long enough. Even last week when I was driving my camper van, and you will see that in a video coming soon, that I drove for a maximum of about 2.5 hours at most before either I or one of the family wanted to stop for either food or for a toilet break, or I just felt so tired I had to stop. But anyway, 3.25 hours will be about right for me, frankly. Right, I've plugged in, and plug-in charge hasn't worked. It's asking me for my provider, so I am going to present my Octopus card. Now it's working. Okay, so the charging started. 67 kilowatts, that should ramp up any second now. $107, that'll do. Right, time to nip to the toilet. Right, I forgot to record some stats when I arrived here. So I've been driving for 3 hours and 21 minutes. It's done 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour. That's 163 miles. Yes, we arrived on 39%, and after 9 minutes, I'm now at 63%. That's not too bad. It says 35 minutes left, but I'm not going to charge till I'm full. That is quite enough. I need to get on with my trip. So back on the road. Right, journey's end. I have arrived in Manchester. It's 20.5 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer than when I left. It's 5:20, and I actually can't remember what time I started, but in terms of driving, you can see that the car has done 4 hours and 27 minutes of driving. There was a little bit of a stop for 10 minutes, so call it, that must have been 4 hours 37 minutes ago then that I left. So 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour on the drive, and it's done 217 miles. Average speed there 49. Obviously I was at 70 miles an hour on the motorway, but then there was a fair old bit of time on A roads. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about things that really aren't great about the car. This is, oh, I never noticed that one before. This is fine, activate battery care mode, because I turned it off, but this comes up every couple of days. Would you like to schedule a service? In fact, there's even a reward in the green room on the app where you can earn rewards for scheduling a service, but 161 days to go. Now, I know that there can sometimes be waiting times to get booked in at dealers, but 161 days? I don't think so. So what I do is I go in and clear those every so often. Obviously battery care mode, it's not going to let me clear. But anyway, that's all for now. I'm going to go and get checked into my hotel, and I will see you in another video very soon.